Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're chiming in. We're excited to be here today. We have a great a great set of panelists joining us. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit one-on-one and go over a couple of things, and then we'll bring on the panelists and have a great show. So, my name is Keith Andre Searles. I am the CEO and founder of both Edge Geospatial and Urban GIS. This is a series we call EDGEinar, where we try to provide some education, some outreach, some collaboration, some inspiration, and just overall a chance for people to understand why we believe GIS and geospatial is so important to this narrative and to this time that we're in, a time where we're trying to overcome the digital divide, a time where basically there are a lot of opportunities to either rise to the occasion or to have some missed chances to uh, solve a lot of problems we have in this world. So if we can just focus on me, we'll bring our panelists back in a moment. And I just want to share a little bit about why this is important, and then we'll get into our main agenda. Jeff, if you can go ahead and transition us. So want to start off talking about Black History Month. You know, this is not just something we try to look at as history, but we look at it as where we are in the present. We try to look forward to where we need to be and where we can be in the future. And it's an inclusive event. It's our organization, Edge, is all about everyone having a part in solving the problems that we have in our society, problems of economic disadvantage, natures of the chance to be more inclusive in industries and the chance to have a part in making a difference and helping us to map our way across the digital divide and being able to have honest conversations about these sort of topics, about the fact that there is a digital divide. And now more than ever, those who are the haves and can leverage technology in a time where we end up having a lot of virtual activity, where our schools shut down. And if you don't have the right computers and access to software, you're going to really be behind at a time where the job market gets tighter, and those who have the know-how on the STEM side of things and on the technology side, they have an advantage to be able to further their opportunities career-wise at a time where small businesses need more opportunities, need more chances to be able to be economically and financially in a great place so that they can impact their communities and they can provide jobs. Technology, it really matters. These topics of STEM and STEAM are very important, and we can either be a part of solving those things or we can watch things get to a place where the frustrations go to a place where people take it to the streets. I believe we're at a very critical time in our history, and we can be a part of that healing, and we can be a part of that resolution, or we can watch literally things unfold that with one or two incidents, it turns into violent situations. It turns into a place where everyone loses when we have a chance to do some things where everyone can win, where we can grow the pie together. So it's not a time to be afraid. It's not a time to be intimidated by the current climate. No matter what verbiage we use, we know that there are things that need to be done. We know that there's healing that needs to happen. We know that there's a pathway forward, and we know that there's a lot of business opportunity. That's the great thing about doing these things. It's a triple bottom line. It can help all businesses be better. It can help all businesses have the best and brightest talent. And so this is really bigger than just technology and business. This is real life opportunity to make a difference. So that's why I started Edge. Is I asked myself, what can I do in my space? And I'm here to be a thought leader. I'm here to inspire others. And there's no time like the present to do that. So let's get into our agenda. And what we can do is we can just focus the image on the slide deck right now, if you could, Jeff, and we can remove our panelists until it's time to bring them up. So our agenda, if you will, today is to have an overview of a little bit about who Edge is, and we're going to talk about for Black History Month some awesome Black women who are pioneers in STEM. We're going to have a section that I call Frankly Speaking about the digital divide and have an awesome example of someone who's making a difference in bridging that gap. We're also going to look to do some making of space for GIS and talk about an awesome event that's coming up next month and what's happening in Detroit, Motown, and we want to know how can we know about geography and why geography matters and why where matters. And then we're going to finish up with some updates and some upcoming events at the Edge. So next slide. So Edge is an organization that's been around for a few years. We've had the privilege and honor to working with a lot of great individuals and being a part of conferences. We've had a chance to kind of rethink some things, retool, rebrand, reemerge, and we're really excited with what we're going to be doing in 2025 and beyond. We have two key initiatives we like to discuss with people to better understand what EDGE is. We're an organization that's all about building a platform, building a network, helping our industry to scale, helping to bring exposure to GIS and geospatial, helping to provide enablement and job training, workforce development, and also helping just the right constituencies to come together. Those who have the resources to those who have the right outlet of people who can benefit from those resources, and overall how we can collaborate together. So the first initiative I want to speak to is called Geo Advancement. It's really all about K through 12 exposure, getting building that GIS pipeline of talent and enabling so many people like myself to know more about these things at a younger age, and so that we can prepare our career paths in a way that we can make the most informed decisions and know about these tools, about the software, about the data. And no matter what paths we go in, it could be something we could do full time, or it could be something to enhance us and differentiate us in different ways. And so workforce development and training and job boards. And one of the key things we're trying to do is build a virtual GIS campus, working with HBCUs, with other minority serving institutions, working with organizations like National Society of Black Engineers, with BEA, and a lot of great groups who have the STEM students already in the pipeline and emerging professionals who then need that ability to get the training that makes them turnkey and ready to add value to our great industry we call GIS and geospatial. The other side is Geo Alliance. It's all about small businesses and collaborating the medium, the large, and the small businesses together, being able to solve that problem of, hey, I'm looking for the right partner with this RFP. Where can I find them? So we have a great group of small businesses in our alliance that are very turnkey, industry ready, as well as we're always trying to expose the opportunities for GIS and geospatial to other small businesses. And we have a variety of things that we're looking to do and partner to just enhance that side as well, because we believe as small businesses are healthy and grow, there's going to be great impact on the community. So next slide. So immediately, hope already you could appreciate some of the things that we're doing. We're going to have another chance at the end to talk more about details on working with EDGE and collaboration, but feel free to scan this. Feel free to go to our website, edgegeospatial.org. You can also join us on a variety of social media platforms, particularly on LinkedIn, where we have not only the EDGE kind of company, but we page, but we also have the EDGE group, which I really encourage you to be a part of and to join, and to share information about opportunities, events, scholarships, ways that we can all collaborate. We'd love for you to be sponsors. In particular, we have an event coming up next month at the ESRI Partner Conference. We're looking for sponsors for that, and then we'll be looking for sponsors for other networking events and other things that we're doing, and just overall to support this community and to enable us to really scale what we're doing. So please join. Also, feel free to email us. Our operations manager, Jeffrey DeRose, it's his email there. If you're just not even sure how you want to collaborate, you want more information, we have some great slide decks that we can share with you about these initiatives that we're doing and help you know how you can collaborate. Next slide. So in the spirit of Black History Month, we wanted to take a moment to celebrate some women who had great impact and are part of us moving on up. And I say that tongue in cheek, because when you hear the name Louise Jefferson, many of us think of one of the great shows that showed success that you didn't see very often on television, and everyone loved Louise Jefferson. But this is a different Louise Jefferson, who was a pioneer in cartography, a pioneer in iconography, and just a legend that many people don't know about. We hear about hidden figures. She's one of those hidden figures. And what I like to say is that she was one of the pioneers of story maps. So Esri has a technology called story maps that allows us, and it's a great tool for those of you who don't know about GIS. You can go to esri.com and check it out, but it allows us to tell stories through maps, through map images, and it's very interactive. And so she was a person who, prior to these sort of technologies existing, she was telling the story of the lineage of African people and where the transition and the migrations happened. She was telling stories about what sort of economic issues were there. She was doing spatial analysis. She was doing all sorts of things that were ahead of the time. And she was creating these sort of maps that had images, positive images of Black people, and really opened the eyes to the nation as to who we are as people. And we're so indebted to the things that she was able to do. So these are some of those great pioneers that were out there that were trailblazing, that really not only were doing things that we should just look at as the past, but they were setting the tone for where we could be in the future. And so we want to help inspire the next Louis Jefferson that is now using the technology to do even more amazing things. And we always look at the people who in STEM were at the forefront, maybe on the professional level, and actually doing some of the work. But I want to take a moment to recognize people who were behind the scenes, because it's equally important, if we can go to the next slide, to be able to acknowledge the people who helped to build and to help to provide the platform for all of the great STEM people we have. So we always talk about the inventors and the people who did that, but we have to recognize the teachers. I love teachers. My personal spiritual gift is teaching, and I believe it's one of the most important things. And the people who are nurturers, the parents, the people who take kids to the programs, the people who make kids aware of the programs, the people who are working in nonprofits to give kids something different to do, are helping kids with math at the early ages and setting the foundation so that they can be able to matriculate through engineering, through technology. We have to recognize them as well. They are STEM heroes. And so one that is very near and dear to my heart is my aunt Jean Searles, who actually passed away just a couple of days ago. So I wanted to take a moment to recognize her. This is a picture of me and her in the hospital last time I was able to spend time with her. But she was a teacher at Beasley Academic Center, which is one of Chicago's South Side schools, one of the best schools in the city of Chicago, primarily students of diverse backgrounds. So many great people have come from that school, and she was the math teacher there for many years. All the people who would hear my last name, they would say, well, do you, and went to that school, they would ask me and they would tell me how tough she was, but how much impact she had in them becoming the professionals that they became. And so shout out to Beasley, shout out to all City of Chicago CPS teachers. And to that end, I have to celebrate my daughter, who's also a CPS teacher. Perfect example of someone who graduated from Georgetown, magna cum laude, could have gone down the attorney route and done a lot of different things. She decided to come back home, to teach for America, teach on the west side of Chicago, and be a part of changing the dynamic that's currently happening. So we celebrate not only the STEM professionals, but the people who create the STEM professionals. And as a man, I always love to acknowledge those who bring the feminine energy, those who are nurturing, those who are doing those things that we don't recognize as a society are extremely important in us having the kind of world that we have. So shout out to all of you all who are on that side. Next slide. So today we have an awesome panel. Really excited about this. These are two great organizations and individuals that we work closely with that are very supportive of EDGE, and EDGE is very supportive of what they're doing. Frank Romo, you're gonna love him. He's a rock star. He's a GeoGeeks geek, and Frank, maybe I can't do it on your level, but we try to make GIS and geospatial a little bit swaggy and try to bring some flavor to it, and what's great here is that we all work together independently, but then we're able to collaborate. So we have Mark Revelle of American Association of Geographers who's also joining us. He's been just a great partner and has provided a lot of opportunities for EDGE to share and to present at different conferences. And we're excited about pursuing funding together and just always finding ways to elevate what we're both trying to do, because that's the whole point here. Is there's a lot of common ground with all of us, whether you're in a professional organization, whether you own a company, whether you're an employee at a company, whether you're part of university, there's a common thread and common ground. And we believe that where matters in all of these different things. And so GIS and geospatial and geography should be right at the heart of it. And students, if you're listening to this, pay attention to how this could apply to your career track, what sort of opportunities are there, opportunities to make an impact on your community, to make great money, and to always have a chance to have jobs. And so in the chat, in the comments, feel free to ask questions, feel free to interact. And we want to just make this an interactive conversation for all of us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Frank to talk a little bit about his past and how he started off as a clean cut guy, winning all these awards, could go down any track that he wanted to, but he decided he wanted to really take his company and his skills and talents and give them back to the community. So Frank, tell us a little bit more about your start. And then Jeff, you can take me off and we'll just give it to Frank in the slide.
Hey everybody, my name is Frank Romo, CEO of Romo GIS. I am from Los Angeles, California originally. During my there we go. Yeah, don't look like me anymore, but that's me in the middle. Right there was when we were doing some work at the city of Detroit. So back in the day, I used to do a lot of work as community organizer in Los Angeles, in Chicago, and New Orleans. I've organized all over the country, and what that means is working with community leaders, working with nonprofit organizations to ensure that we can empower them with the tools and the skills needed to create impact in their communities. Most memorably, I feel like I started off as kind of like an emergency management person because I did some work after Hurricane Katrina, was down in New Orleans many years doing work there. I did work after Hurricane Sandy when I first learned about GIS. And that first day after Hurricane Sandy, I was studying at Columbia University, and we were working with an organization down in Red Hook, Brooklyn. We were working with youth. I have a long history of working with youth, being a mentor. So we were working with youth on urban planning, architecture type stuff. There was an urban garden. We were trying to get some of those groceries to local stores so the students can get paid, so that we can improve the ecosystem for local residents as the community was gentrifying in Red Hook. And then, the next night, Hurricane Sandy came through and wiped out all the crops that the students were working on, that we were planning to distribute. And this is a perfect example of how you can have all the plans in the world, but when things kind of go awry, you have to be able to uh, shift quickly and be able to still lead with the skills that you have. And so with us, we went out there, kind of jumped into community organizing mode, knocked on doors, identified which people needed what. They needed insulin, diapers, medications, whatever it was. And we put a map on the table, took some GPS points, and went out and served the community, identified where the needs was, and then partnered with folks like American Red Cross, et cetera, to provide those services and those resources to those in need. And so it was very much kind of in line with what I've done before, but that was the moment where we first used technology and using the GPS tools. I'd just been introduced to GIS, and it was at that moment I realized, oh wow, there's really a lot here that we can do in terms of training youth, training community leaders with the technology, but also not just doing technology or research for its own sake, but recognizing how to leverage that to put it into action, into local action. So again, just across the top here, in the top left and the top right are two of our students, Zamarian on the left, where he's showing the phone, and Xylon on the right-hand side working on a map on the laptop. Those both gentlemen are part of our Detroit-based program, which is called the Frederick Douglass GIS Pathways Program. It's for 9th through 12th grade students. Students get 9 college credits during the process. We also have training for them to get their Part 107 drone license. So the goal here is to really utilize GIS and technology as a workforce development tool. And so with that, we've had multiple students earn funding, earn job internships. A few of our students even had full-time job offers coming out of high school, which is a great thing and should happen more. If we can train more students to harness these skills and harness these tools, it's getting to a point where you don't necessarily even need a college degree to be able to do this GIS work or to be hired as a GIS technician. Same thing with some of the drone technology. So for me, I really see this as an avenue for economic development, as an avenue for upward mobility for the students we work with. In the bottom left, I'm teaching there in Salinas, California, where we work with multiple high schools as well. In a more kind of informal capacity, there's not a full program structured there yet, but we are talking about doing a summer camp or a 1 or 2 day camp with students in California as well. And the bottom middle picture is a gentleman from University of Michigan. So we teach also at the undergraduate and graduate level. Again, it's really just about mentoring and supporting students who are interested in using technology, but using GIS to make a difference. We always focus on using geospatial to make a difference. In the top middle picture, which doesn't look like me at all anymore, that was my time working at the City of Detroit 911 Center. So I worked for the City of Detroit for about almost a decade, and in that role, I worked on 911, emergency management, fire operations, police operations, homeland security, worked on security plans for Ford Field and Little Caesars Arena, where the Lions and Red Wings play. So even that, even in municipal government, we're able to see how geospatial makes an impact on almost everything we touch every day, from sanitation to transportation. And now what we've done since leaving that job, I've done Romo GIS full time now. Our business is about 7 or 8 years old, and we are currently expanding our work all across the country. Now we have STEM education programs in Detroit, in the Bronx, New York, and in Nashville, Tennessee. And we focus on what we call our GIS for Good model. So, Jeff, if you do have some of those links, if you don't mind dropping them in the comments, please. We call our work that we do GIS for Good. And again, we had we call it the 5-week curriculum, where we train students and community leaders how to use geospatial for community impact. In particular, in the Bronx, we're working on GIS platforms and programs. I'll be teaching there this Saturday to address things like gun violence, community safety, some other issues like the opioid epidemic and other kind of zoning and land use issues that are affecting the community, and really teaching students how to think holistically about how we can make change, and partnering our student leaders with our nonprofit leaders, with our geospatial staff, so that we can all come together and make that impact. And I'm happy to say over the past year, we've probably trained over 1,000 students, and we've also had multiple cohorts where we started another one in 2 weeks in California, where we train nonprofit organizations how to use geospatial technology. In California, we've trained about 50 nonprofit organizations in the use of geospatial. We onboard them to new technologies. We train them how to manage their data and how to tell their story, because as I always tell folks, all of these students, all of these community leaders, they have geospatial awareness already. They know what's going on in the community. They can tell you where their things need to be changed. Well, now we're providing them tools and resources so they can utilize those to the best of their ability to advocate for themselves, whether that's with local leadership like politicians, law enforcement, or school educators. Our goal is to improve the workforce in GIS, make it more diverse, and ensure that more students have the opportunity to leverage this for upward mobility, economic development, but also community development. And so as you look at a few of the links that were dropped in the chat, you'll see that we are really adamant about creating more leaders. I always talk to folks about, hey, you run a GIS program, you run a STEM program, you run a drone program. What are you actually doing? I think for us, we run leadership development programs. And that leadership development comes community development, comes youth development, comes training the next generation of leaders to create an impact in our communities. And so that's a little bit about us. I'm excited to speak with you all further. And thank you very much to Edge for hosting us. Thank you, Keith, and your team. They've been a great resource and support of our work. And we hope this is only another step in that direction, so we can all work together. Thank you very much.
I want to chat with you a little bit. I'm just so impressed with the work you do. Every time we talk, I learn something new. I'm inspired. You're that dude, man. And there are a lot of other things that you could have done to take your talent somewhere else, and you've taken them back to the community. Can you talk a little bit more about why GIS, geospatial, and drone, all these different things are so unique, not only from an economic upliftment and workforce development standpoint, but we can use these tools to actually make a difference in our community. We can understand the nature of the problems. We can understand where the disparities are, where we can better bring the resources that are desperately needed, and why sometimes the way that they're being done are not being done in an equitable way, or in a way that's really aligned with what we want to say in this country we're about, and the organizations and the governments are saying that they're trying to do. Maybe sometimes they're ignorant of what's not happening, and the people who do know on the ground what's happening don't have the tools to help communicate that. Can you speak a little bit more about those issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, as I said, we work with, the best way I could do is with some examples. Our work in the Bronx. We have work in the Bronx where we're working with nonprofit leaders, NYPD, city staff, students, and everybody, is at the table trying to solve an issue. In particular, in the Bronx, we're looking at gun violence, we're looking at community safety. And one of the things that I said was, this is great, we have a lot of stakeholders at the table, but what about the students? They have a say, they have something that they have to contribute, and the students also feel that way. I work with students all over the country, and too often times they feel like they can't get in the game, whether that's on the political side, whether that's on organizing side, to make a difference, and that's not true. These are tools that allow us to get in the game, to analyze our neighborhood, to understand what's going on, to be able to design some programs that can make a difference. For instance, in one of our programs in California, students identified where there were issues in the neighborhood where they couldn't hang out, where they felt unsafe, etc. We then took that data, utilized it to create a grant, so then the students had an after-school program, an after-school lounge where they could hang out afterwards. That's a clear example of how GIS is making an impact on a daily basis, right? Students were already spatially aware of what's going on. And that's what I always tell students, that a lot of us, we have the spatial acknowledgement, even with Keith giving a shout out to, our ancestors and the folks who have done this before us. There are folks who have led the way in doing this in a lot of different ways. And now we see this as this geospatial technology as an opportunity for us to, again, focus on creating more power, creating more ownership, accountability in our neighborhoods. For me, I always talk about the importance of GIS and our work in community organizing is that I think GIS is about power. When you draw a line on a map, when you make a map, you're somebody, whoever is drawing that, is making an indication. Hey, on this side of the line, this is happening. On that side of the line, that's happening. There's tax incentives, there's historic districts, whatever it might be, and every line and every stroke represents the power that is there in GIS. So as Keith said, what we're trying to do is ensure that the people have access to that power, people have access to those tools and resources so they can make that difference in their community.
I love that, Frank. And we like to say that one of my quotes is, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a GIS is worth 1,000,000, because it's a dynamic set of pictures. It allows us to think about things in terms of space and location and bring all these disparate data sources together. Can you talk a little bit more about how, on one hand, almost everyone uses GIS tools. They don't always know it when they're using Uber and Google Maps and, navigation that they call GPS. And then they look on TV, and when national disasters happen, they're looking at maps that were created by folks like Esri and other people who are doing these things so that they can make informed decisions on where they should go, what's happening next. So can you talk about the LA fires and any other kind of real world examples of the work that you're doing applies to things that people are seeing right before them now, but they're not recognizing that GIS is behind the scenes?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. So again, I'm from Los Angeles. So in January we had a plethora of wildfires in the LA area, and it was rather devastating for a lot of communities. And during that time, again, like I said, I had my kind of emergency management hat on, and I'm sitting there on the sidelines, and that's not the kind of guy I am. I'm like, all right, how do I get in? What do I do to contribute? And again, it's not about me being there. It's about recognizing that I have skills and resources to contribute and being able to put those in place. So one of the things we did was create data, real-time data. A few of our maps got highlighted across multiple networks about the work that we were putting out there, where we created an application, identified where the current fires were, allowed people to put a point on the map, whether that's their address or a specific location, draw a buffer around it, and be able to see, oh, that fire is about 3.5 miles from me. Should I be concerned? And again, this is a perfect example of how being on the ground, like he said, really makes a difference, because, as stuff's coming top down from the planning department, from the county, whatever, you're getting notifications every 5 seconds on your phone. We need real data from real verified people, right? It's hard to always, oh, well, go to the link on the screen or scan the QR code. No, like at the end of the day, when we're working in emergency management, when we're working in communities, you're more likely to call your neighbor or call your cousin or call your grandma and say, hey, are you okay? What are we doing? What's the next move? And when what we focus on is putting those tools in the general public's hands, because a lot of times the power dynamics and the area and the communication methods, dissemination methods, might not always be there. When we talk about the digital divide, some folks don't have a laptop or a computer at home. So we need to make our tools mobile friendly so that people can look at it on their phone immediately. And so that's what we did. We made some applications, some mobile friendly tools where we could update people in real time. And it was we had a good response from community leaders saying, hey, can you help us? We have this other data, or we have resource locations where people can get water and food. Can you put that on the map? And now, in the midst of all the chaos, we're able to bring a little structure, provide some resources, and showcase our leadership in a way that is able to be a beacon. I don't have the solutions. I don't have all the water or the food, but I understand where that is, and I understand where the people are who need it. And the GIS allows us to connect those things and be able to create a visualization, a route to a place, evacuation route, whatever it might be, to help people feel more secure and more educated. We know that knowledge is power, and knowledge can, in emergency management situations, can save lives. And so that's something that we're really focused on, is how do we provide this power and knowledge in a way that it can be leveraged for the greater good.
Uh, I love that. I think this is a good time to bring Mark Ravel in, because really what you're saying underneath it all is geography is really important. Geography is one of those sort of school topics we learn. You think it's just, well, I need to know the capitals, I need to know the states, and it's just the static sort of thing. You just memorize some things and that's it. But what we're hearing is that where it really matters in terms of spatially enabled decision support, real world things such as emergencies, how we can move in our community, what's happening. And so Mark, we know that one of those cities that is really important and is changing rapidly. There's a lot of gentrification. Detroit, on one hand, it's kind of a tale of two cities, right? And it's really cool and interesting that AAG is having the conference in Detroit. I love to be. I love going up there. It's a cool city. Can you guys talk a little bit more about Detroit and a city like Detroit that comes from this, old school industrial background and it is now trying to reinvent itself, and where can technologies like GIS and geospatial come into play?
Sure. So I can let Frank talk probably a little more about Detroit specifically, but I will let you guys know that we are having our annual meeting every year. The AAG has a big annual conference, usually around 5,000 to 6,000 or so attendees. So coming up in March, the AAG annual conference this year is going to be in Detroit from March 24th to 28th. So one of the things that we like to do every year is bring in like local professionals working in the area to talk about their careers. So professional geographers that are working in industry, government, the nonprofit sector, and so forth. We typically do like a big track of uh, career focused sessions, so career paths in industry and different job sectors and so forth. So this year we're doing a big careers and professional development track. I think there's going to be around 60 panel sessions and workshops that are focused on these kind of opportunities. Some highlights: we're doing 4 career mentoring sessions. So any attendee can come and meet and talk with a professional geographer who's working on a different issue, and you can look at the list ahead of time to see who's going to be there and sort of plan your participation based on what your career interests are and so forth. So we have a lot of panels and workshops. So we run workshops on GISP certification, for example, professional branding, job interview strategies, and more. Panels focused on geo career paths. And let's see, what else do we have going on this year? A student day. So for students in the audience, second full day of the conference is going to be specifically dedicated for students. So we have a track of student-oriented sessions on things like labor organizing in graduate school, research methods, entry-level geo careers, and more. So there's also going to be like a free catered lunch. We do a lot of work with Esri at AAG. So Esri is going to be in attendance, and they're going to be running their young professionals network. So they're going to be doing a couple of workshops and a reception in one of the evenings. And then another thing this year is we're convening an education symposium on the final day of the conference, where we are bringing in some local Detroit teachers, and basically the idea is to convene K through 12 teachers, community college educators, university educators, and practitioners to discuss strategies for building up the pipeline into geography, GIS, geospatial careers. So one of the things we are seeing for geography specifically is that we're fewer and fewer people are majoring in geography every year over year. For like the last 15 years in a row, we've lost majors. But at the same time, the jobs, the industry, government, well, regardless of what's happening with the current administration, there's a lot of opportunities out there for geographers. For whatever reason, the perception among students continues to be that there's like nothing you can do with a degree in geography, but it couldn't be further from the truth. There's so many opportunities out there. Like there never right now is probably one of the best times to get a degree in this field as as a GIS practitioner or a geographer. So that's kind of what we try to do, is to combat that stereotype that geography is just learning about place names, and it really couldn't be further from the truth. So that's what we're kind of all about. And these are just a couple of the highlights. So I can post a link here. I don't have it queued up right now, but so if you go to aeg.org, that's the AAG's website. So from that, you can look at if you're interested in becoming an AAG member. We have reduced rates for students, and our membership rates are sort of on a sliding scale. We use the honor system, so it's based on income. You pay a lower rate the less you make. So yeah, I think that's I'll stop there.
No, this is appreciated, Mark. And
Sure.
just again, for those who are watching, jump in the comments. It's a great time to put some questions out there to the full panel that we can put out there and discuss. A lot of good information shared. A lot of people don't know the who's who of who has a geography background. Many politicians, a lot of people who are doing major things. One of my favorite, of course, they talk about is Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Right. So you can take a geography degree and go some crazy places. But one of my coolest folks that I know that has a geography background, it will be on a panel there. His name is Frank Romo. Let's hear from Frank more about what you'll be spitting while you're out there in Detroit, bringing hopefully some of your kids there, as well as inspire some folks who are coming from all over the country to be a part of this great conference.
I was hoping you were gonna say me. I wasn't sure though. I was waiting. No. Thanks. So yeah, just to answer your first question about the transition in Detroit, the change over the past 10, 15 years. Even I came to Detroit probably immediately almost after the bankruptcy, and I got a job with the city of Detroit. And at that point, there was a lot of challenges the city was facing, and we at the city built up a strong geospatial group of professionals. And there was one day where folks were like, "Oh, hey, yeah, we might be doing this mentorship thing." And so I started to go with the Frederick Douglass program in Detroit, and I started to meet with the principal, K through 12 educators. And this is a perfect example of how there was a pathways program there before, but it was more focused on electrical engineering, kind of stuff that was more relevant to Detroit, probably you could say 20, 30 years ago. And so we found like students weren't really enrolling, and so the principal said, "Hey, Frank, I don't know what this GIS stuff is, but I know my kids need it. I know that this is something that they need." And that tends to be the consensus. Like a lot of folks don't know what it is, but they understand about, hey, I use Google Maps, I use Uber, like what Keith was saying before. And so it's really about just demystifying it for folks and say, hey, I can show you how to push the buttons. We can make some moves together and create some maps. So through the course of that, we changed the Pathways program to be GIS focused. And since then, we've over the past 4 years, we've had 3 summer camps at the program. Our students have earned over $150,000 in cash in their pocket through scholarships, grants, job opportunities. And so when we talk about workforce development, that's a really big part of it. And it goes to Mark and Keith's point that there are a lot of opportunities out here with these skills. There are a plethora of opportunities that you could jump into in a variety of different disciplines as well. Like I said before, planning, law enforcement, public health, whatever, it runs the gamut. And so fast forward, we have multiple of our students who will be presenting on that Friday, on the March 28th, I believe is the Friday, and that's the educational portion of the conference. We have multiple of our high school seniors will be coming to present their work to talk about their 4 years in the program, and then just like mentorship and support goes, we have some of our younger students coming on who will be speaking for the first time at a conference. And again, those opportunities are so impactful for students to be able to help them grow in their confidence and their support. And folks like AAG and Edge are always there to support and say, hey, how can we support? How can we support the young students? How do we provide more programming that is geared toward them and not just professionals? So I really appreciate all of us being here together. And so if you want to come to the AAG conference, it's going to be great. Detroit's going to be great. We're going to have a bunch of fun stuff going on. Some people might be able to come to the school, meet some of our students, but overall, again, it's really just about inspiring that next generation to transform with the technology and be able to be ahead of the curve. Last thing I'll say is that one of the things in Detroit that's happened recently is, Ford Motor Company and a bunch of other organizations have moved downtown to create a small, like not very small, they would create a very big tech hub where they're flying drones off of the old train station building, and we're working with clients there to develop longer term programming for residents, students, and everybody. I always tell my guys at the school, I said, there are millions of dollars being poured into GIS and drone technology, et cetera. Don't let it just fly over your head. We got to take part in this. We got to figure out how we can be part of this solution and part of this future, because these jobs and these opportunities are really the future. And so the more students we can get in line, and the more professors and teachers that we can help educate and inspire to do that, the better outcomes we'll have for all of us.
That's great information, Frank. And you bring up a really good point about corporate partners, because that's also part of the EDGE team and conglomerate of folks who care about these issues. Why is this an area where they can get a great return on investment when they want to have community outreach, when they want to pour into to not only build the pipeline for the next GIS professionals, but just doing good corporate, being good corporate stewards of their constituencies and the benefits that are there. You mentioned the Ford Foundation, so that's a great example. Jarrell and our great folks there doing amazing work. Can you talk more about some of both of you all, the corporate sort of opportunities to collaborate with our organizations, and why it's important to get sponsorship, why we need funding, and why there can be so much return on investment from government, from corporations, from whomever believes in STEM and STEAM education as well as community engagement?
Yes, I love it. So right now I'm working on a project with the organization that's leader in the drone space called Airspace Link, and they're down in Detroit. Also working with the Henry Ford Museum with Jarrell and folks. Well, I'll start right away with the ROI. Right, the return on investment is huge. When Mark has already said it, Keith said it. The amount of jobs in this industry are growing exponentially every year, and it is all I keep hearing when we talk about statistics is that we don't have enough folks trained in the United States here, all the way across the board, from top to bottom. Whether you're talking about GIS, geography, drone technology, we don't have enough folks trained. So when we talk about a gap and an opportunity to fill that gap with investment, with directed funding towards programs like AAG is running towards, programs like EDGE is running towards, programs like Romo GIS is running across the country. We have some of those directed funding mechanisms that we can help with the hardware, because some of these tools are very expensive sometimes with regards to the drones and things like that. But more importantly, it's about the pipeline and the mentorship that's being created. One of the things that I found to be the most exciting part about my work is that GIS professionals love to see this pipeline, right? We do the work. I'm always out. I'm always in the classroom. I love being in the classroom, working with the students. But when we go, our students presented at the Geospatial Professional Network Conference. Our students presented in New York, in Arizona, in multiple states, and them getting out of their comfort zone, being able to present, and having that support from partners like us, from partners like Edge and AAG. What they're able to do is transition that. It may not be GIS, but then they go into AI, then they go into drone technology. GIS is such a great entry point, but it is not the stopping point. It allows students to find their own pathway and be able to funnel into these plethora of jobs that are out there. So I think the ROI is very much there when we talk about the whether it's keeping folks in the local area and saying, hey, we don't want you to leave. We want you to contribute to our local neighborhood, to our local nonprofits, city government, even the private sector organizations. They use GIS all the time. So capturing that and keeping it local, but also helping folks expand their skill set, because as folks expand their skill set, there's opportunity for more funding to come in. But I think for me, that's one of the things I really push is entrepreneurship, teaching students how to use the technology to become entrepreneurs like myself, like Keith, because that is, again, a whole nother thing that we haven't even touched yet, with the amount of entrepreneurship that can come from these jobs and these new technologies.
Yeah, so I'll add to that, I guess. And I think, Frank, you spoke to some of this, but Keith, to your point about engaging more with corporate sponsorships and things like that. I'll tell you, I think, at least in my experience, I found that a lot of these big corporations that do have a need for geospatial talent just speaking for geography, they tend to have a blind spot for geography, and really a lot of the times, the people that they hire are coming straight out of computer science programs, which is fine. I mean, I'm nothing against computer science, but what we're trying to push for at AAG is, and one of the things we always like to emphasize is that a computer science major is not likely going to have the same context about, they can learn the tools, they can learn how to use GIS, but without the geographic background and without the fundamentals in terms of like all the variables that go into building a GIS and looking and examining issues happening within a community and things like that, a geographer or someone who has formal training, in GIS is going to have a lot more, or going to be more impactful for that organization. So I think for that reason, a lot of corporations should consider themselves stakeholders in what we're doing, and in a lot of ways try to work with us to build the next generation and to ensure that we're going to have a continuous pipeline of students that are trained with these essential skills in geography, GIS, geospatial talent. So yeah.
That's great stuff. I want to kind of finish off with some tangible things that people can take away. So definitely, if you have some advice or tips on for students in getting more involved, specific software toolkits. We talked about EDGEinar. That's one of the major ones out there, and just ways that they can find a way to get some hands-on experience, to get exposed, as well as ways that companies, for nonprofits, how can we all be a part of this? How can they support the efforts that you all are doing? Let's give some people some tangible things that they can do to kind of walk away from this inspired, but also having some action.
I'll jump in. Yeah, I think for us, I think it is really is about, I know everybody's at their own place in their geographic journey, and I think recognizing that it is a ubiquitous software that is not going away. It is ubiquitous in every 2 clicks on your phone and you're at a map, and that's going to be the future for a long time now, right? When we talk about self-driving vehicles, stuff that's going on in Detroit at the University of Michigan and Ford, those are all map geographic based software. So for me, it really is about finding that inquiry and what is it that inspires you? What is it that makes you want to go make a map, makes you want to research something? It is another form of research too, trying to understand what's going on in the community, what logistics need to be accomplished so that you can get from point A to B, etc. So, well, first thing I would say is that it's ubiquitous software that's not going away. Second, I would say is don't be scared of it. There's a lot of ways to enter, a lot of entry points, whether that's you learning yourself, going watching YouTube, whatever it might be, or even just understanding what your organization might need and how it could be utilized. Because for a lot of times, that's what we do is help organizations just understand where there are gaps and that they can fill with this geospatial technology. It has been um, in the commercial space for a while, but it is, these are tools that have been worked on for a long time by military operations, by private companies to develop these software. And so now that they're slowly getting out into the commercial space and becoming more common, this is again a great opportunity for that, future ROI to see, hey, if we invest some time and energy now, what can that mean for our organization? How can we streamline things? How can we make things more efficient? How can we create a bigger impact? So I would say if you want to if you want to reach out to us at Romo GIS, please feel free to find us at romogis.com. Find me on LinkedIn. Like we do a lot of work on LinkedIn, but don't be hesitant to ask questions. I think in the geospatial community, the last thing I'll say is that we're all very collaborative. And that's one of my favorite parts about the geospatial community. We're all very collaborative. If you don't know something, we'll teach you, we'll help you out. And so, understanding what the needs are of your organization and how this can be impactful is a really great starting point. And don't be shy, and, holler at me if you have any questions, because we're always here to help.
So just to kind of reinforce what Frank was saying, I was writing a research paper recently where I came across a stat that I thought was just mind blowing. So I believe it was in 2020 2018, the global GIS industry was something like worth like 12 billion, and that's projected to grow to over 30 billion by 2030. So that gives you an idea of how fast this field is growing and all the opportunities that are coming down the pike. So I would say, just in terms of like advice, I found that someone majoring in, and I think this goes for GIS too, but a geography major, even though they're going to be very well qualified to go into the workforce, a lot of times the reality is just the employers aren't going to understand what geography is or the value of it, or even GIS in some cases. So one of the things I always recommend is consider just diversifying yourself a little bit and trying to get some of those business skills too, because I think a GIS degree paired with some business experience or a business degree, double major, whatever, though that's a powerful combination. I think you're going to set yourself up really well with those with that combination of skills. But I was like, GIS, it's one of the exciting things is that it's just everywhere. It touches nearly every industry from healthcare to data science to to almost every sector of the workforce has a need for GIS professionals, and I don't think that's going to go away. Even despite what's happening now with the downsizing of the federal government, there's always going to be that need for GIS.
Great advice, you all. So insightful on so many different levels. Really look forward to hopefully seeing you in Detroit for the conference and finding more ways to collaborate and bringing some more friends to the table that we can do some more joint programming. So thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for all the information. And as they mentioned, please check them out on LinkedIn and learn more about their various organizations and how you can work with them, and very open folks who are just down to be supportive. So thank you again, and we'll transition. And Frank, thanks I know you're at the airport making this happen, so we'll let you get your next mission. And Mark, thank you again. We'll talk to you soon. All right. So
Thanks, Keith.
All right.
Thank you all.
Okay, so just to close things out, guys, just want to share a little bit as we let our guests go about some upcoming activities. 2025 is a jam-packed year. We took a little time to kind of regroup in 2024, but in years past, we were super active with a variety of networking events, a variety of conferences, these EDGEinars, and we're really proud of the impact we've already had, but we're just getting started and we're looking forward to more. So looking at 2025, moving forward, we're not only going to the various GIS and geospatial conferences. If we can go to the next slide, we're also looking to get more involved with some of the other organizations that we are connecting with. And this is a great example. I had a chance to connect with some folks from one of our new partners, BEA. And I say new, but for me, there's an organization that was inspirational to me when I was a civil engineering student at the University of Illinois. They have an annual conference where they bring students primarily to Baltimore and get all this experience and exposure to these companies that are looking for engineering and tech and STEM students. You have a chance to go for internships, just be exposed on so many different levels, be inspired, and it made a big difference for me in my career. So after joining them for their career fair, virtual career fair nationally a little while ago, which I think you can get online if you want to check that out. It's a really cool interview that they did. They invited me to come to the conference. They gave me a chance to have a booth for EDGE. We talked to high school students, we talked to college students, we talked to emerging professionals, even some professionals that are looking to retool their career and find a new career path. Amazing event, super appreciative, and we're having great conversations about future collaboration. So just another example of what we're trying to do at EDGE is not just the GIS and geospatial. We're trying to work with the BEAs of the world, the NSBs, the SHIPs, and other technology organizations, and we all have the same goal. And we have a lot of overlap, and so we're looking for those partnerships. Going to the next slide. And so really want to acknowledge a lot of our partners. And so we have sponsors and we have partners. So first, I want to make a pitch for 2025. We're looking to re-up with some of our past sponsors, and we're always looking for new sponsors. So thank you for some of our past sponsors like Esri and GeoMarvel, who have not just been sponsors, but they've really been partners and instrumental in so many foundational ways of getting EDGE off the ground and rolling. And so I always want to acknowledge them. And then we're building more professional organizations that we're partnering with who, again, are looking for workforce development, helping young professionals, emerging professionals to know how to navigate their careers. And we've already talked about Romo and AAG. ACE is another one that's on the engineering and tech side. And then we're also working with folks like United Negro College Fund, who we're hoping to hopefully partner with this virtual GIS campus that we're trying to build. And had a conversation with one of the founders of NSBE last week, who was another organization that was so instrumental in my career path. And then we do a lot of work with ESRI's YPN group. So we're constantly looking to add to this group of partners, both nonprofits, universities, and just a wide range of folks who have similar deals and things that they're trying to accomplish. And we're looking for more sponsorships so we can scale what we're trying to do. And we want to be supportive of the Romo GISs of the world, of the people who are on the ground and touching it. We're looking to build this network and, again, connect the resources with the people who are doing the work, and the students and the young folks and other people who can benefit from what's happening out here. Next slide. And so looking at our upcoming events for 2025, next week will be a part of a conversation with ESRI. They're taking great steps to further their small business presence and being intentional and working with small businesses. So we'll have a chance to share with them and help them to further that. We're looking forward to hopefully being a part of the National Society of Black Engineers convention that will be happening in my hometown, Chicago, March 5th through the 9th. And I also share these things so others, you can be aware. And that's what we want to put on our EDGE LinkedIn group, all of the different conferences on both sides, so that people can know about industry things, community things, STEM conferences, and we can all just share information. We look forward to our networking event we do annually at the ESRI Partner Conference out in Palm Springs on March 10th. Again, we're looking for sponsors for that, looking for companies who want to participate. We're going to have a great group of small businesses that are represented, as well as mid and large size representation. A number of people from various ESRI departments. We always get a lot of support from the professional services group, so super excited about that. One of our newer partners, formerly known as ERISA, now they're going under the moniker Geospatial Professional Network. They're having an event coming up, Mappy Q&A, where you can learn about charting your path in GIS, and that's on March 25th. As we talked about, the AAG annual meeting on the 24th of March. A new partner also that we're working with is ByteCon. They're a technology group. They have a conference down in Miami trying to expose technology to the community there. American Association of Blacks in Energies, they have their national conference in April 28th. We'll be having another EDGEinar around career development, tentatively scheduled for May 22nd, and another EDGEinar around the June 19th sort of time frame to prepare for the big ESRI user conference, as well as celebrate some different things that are happening in the small business community. We hope to be a part of the ESRI Education Summit there at the UC, and then have our annual Geo Alliance networking event on July 13th. And just all throughout that conference, we usually are given a booth and look forward to interacting with many of you, and then being a part of the ESRI Infrastructure Management Conference in October, possibly Afrotech, October 27th, and then the SHIP Annual Convention, and then also the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council Conference on November 2nd through 5th. So a lot on the plate. We're looking for sponsors to help us have presence. We can help your organization have presence. We can help provide information for job opportunities, for collaboration opportunities. Let's work, let's collaborate, let's build together. Final couple slides, and we'll let you all go for the day. So we don't just talk about things, we want to have a call to action. So please go to edgegeospatial.org to learn more about us, to learn more about how you can connect with us, to learn about our initiatives. Reach out to us, send us an email, connect with us on LinkedIn. We do have a job board that we're building, so companies, please put your jobs there. Students, please, and emerging professionals, please put your resumes there. It's one of those things we want to build that, swell, and be the resource to connect folks, and also connecting people on the business side of things through small business networking. We're, again, looking for sponsors, and we're looking for new partners and just ways we can collaborate. If you're not sure, just come ask us, come talk to us about it, and feel free to participate in our LinkedIn community board on the EDGE group. And if nothing else, just share the information. Share the EDGEinars. We record these. We put them on our YouTube channel. So they're there for posterity. So for people who are trying to understand what GIS Geospatial is about, what the opportunities are, It's always a resource that you can go back to even past sessions and you can learn more as well as share with other people. With that, we're going to close. And if we can have the last slide there, you can scan again to easily connect with us and see our link tree and all of our socials. Connect with us on the socials. Just repeat the things that we put out there and forward them on so that people, we really need to preach the GIS and geospatial gospel, if we will. And so we need some fellow evangelists out there who are sharing the information. And we look forward to hearing from you. We thank you for your support, and we'll catch you at the next EDGEinar. Thank you.